Hello everyone, welcome to CNA, the daily newspaper analysis. So today we have got the following list of topics. So let's discuss. The first says about the cultural infrastructure. That means the revamped कर्तव्य पथ. जो पहले हम लोग राजपथ बोलते थे, आज वो कर्तव्य पथ बन गया है. And recently we have seen that the Prime Minister inaugurated this path and unveiled the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose at the India Gate. Okay. तो नेताजी का जो स्टैचू है वो लगाया गया है वहां पे. सो वी कैन सी दैट दिस कर्तव्य पथ symbolizes a shift from the erstwhile Rajpath being an icon of power to Kartavya Path being an example of public ownership and empowerment. So the statue of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, which was made of granite, is a fitting tribute to the immense contribution of Netaji to our freedom struggle, and would be a symbol of the country's indebtedness to him. So ये जो मूर्ति है नेताजी के, तो it was crafted by Shri Arun Yogiraj, who was a main sculptor, that is of the 28 feet tall statue has been carved from a monolithic granite stone and it weighs around 65 megaton. Okay, तो 65 MT का हमारे ये statue है. Okay, so therefore we could see that these steps are directly in line with Prime Minister's second Panchpran, which was directly pledged during 75th Independence Day of 2022, which directly says about a new India in Amrit Kal. That means removing any trace of colonial mindset. तो पहले हम लोग ने देखा था वो नेवी का जो सेंट जॉर्ज का हम लोग का क्रॉस था वो हटाया. अभी the symbol is directly is a remarkable example of removing any traces that we find in this colonial mindset. Okay, so therefore we see that if I go to some of the brief history of Rajpath, तो ये जो राजपथ है ये किस लिए था? We called the Kingsway during British rule. A 3-kilometer stretch was built for a ceremonial boulevard by Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Baker, the architect of New Delhi. So the capital of the Raj moved to New Delhi from Calcutta around 1911, and construction continued for several years thereafter. Okay, so Lutyens conceptualized a modern imperial city centered around a ceremonial axis, which was named Kingsway in honor of the Emperor of India, George V, who visited Delhi during the time of Darbar of 1911, where he formally proclaimed the decision to move the capital. So following independence of 1947, the road was given its Hindi name Rajpath. Okay, and the Republic Day parade took place over the decades that followed. ठीक है, तो ये है. So what is this Kartavya Path and its significance? So today we can see that this entire stretch in the area from Netaji statue under the grand canopy to the Rashtrapati Bhavan will be known as Kartavya Path. Okay, and it includes the erstwhile Rajpath as well as Central Vista lawns. जो ऐसे रास्ते के साइड में हम लोग lawns देखते हैं, वो lawns के बारे में बोल रहे हैं. So this will exhibit landscapes, lawns with walkways, and will add the green spaces of this respective area. So it also include a number of sustainability features like solid waste management, storm water management, recycling of used water, rainwater harvesting. सब यहाँ पे हम लोग करेंगे. Okay, so therefore we could see that सुभाष चंद्र बोस के बारे में कुछ अगर बोलने जाऊं छोटे से ही, ठीक है, ऐसे भी तो बहुत बड़ा हस्ती थे हमारे कंट्री के लिए. So अगर मैं छोटा सा कुछ बोलना चाहूं तो this man is a very dynamic man who was born around 1907. तो इनका बर्थडे जो है 23 जनवरी को आता है. तो ही वॉज बोर्न इन कटक, अभी उड़ीसा डिवीजन में है, बंगाल प्रोविंस का, उस टाइम का बंगाल प्रोविंस का जगह था. ठीक है, एंड हिज जयंती इज टुडे नोन एज पराक्रम दिवस. आज हम लोग 23 जनवरी को क्या यूज करते हैं? पराक्रम दिवस के हिसाब से हम लोग करते हैं. सो दिस मैन इन 1919 he cleared what? Indian civil service examination. Okay, so however he resigned later, and he was highly influenced by the teachings of whom? Swami Vivekananda. And he considered him to be his spiritual guru. So his political mentor was Chittaranjan Das. Okay, and his spiritual guru was Vivekananda. So he worked on various newspapers also. He worked on various. He worked as an editor also. Also, his association with the Congress. Okay, in the respective, we can see about the Salt Satyagraha in 1930. Okay, where he vehemently opposed the suspension of this civil disobedience movement. Okay, even signing the Gandhi Irwin Pact. Okay, so he was in close touch with even Jawaharlal Nehru, M.N. Roy. Okay, so we can see that even at the very later stage he directly founded a new party which was known as the Forward Bloc. ओके उसके बाद इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी का फॉर्मेशन हुआ है, दैट इज he reached Japanese controlled Singapore from Germany in July around 1943, where he issued from there his famous call, which is known as Delhi Chalo, okay, which led to the formation of the Assam government by the time of 1943. And INA was directly first formed under Mohan Singh and Japanese Major Iwaichi Fujiwara, and he comprises the various prisoners of war of the British Indian Army captured by the Japanese in the Malayan Peninsula. Okay, so he died directly in 1945 when his plane directly crashed in Taiwan. However, there are still many conspiracy theories regarding his death. So we know, or we have just crisply understood about the various associations with our great man or our great leader who is known as Subhash Chandra Bose, because of whom we have directly unveiled a respective statue near to the Kartavya Path. Okay, so ये था culture infrastructures. Next पे आते हैं, लद्दाख इंडियन चाइनीज ट्रूप्स डिसएंगेजमेंट्स. ओके, तो यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, along the LAC between India and China, Indian Army has been given certain locations that his troops have access to patrol and the area under its control. These points are known as patrolling points or PP and are decided by the China Study Group. So this is an apex decision-making body on China set up in 1976. So there are 65 patrolling points in Ladakh along the LAC. So Indian and Chinese troops in the areas of Gogra hot springs have begun to disengage in coordination in a planned way. ठीक है, तो अभी यहाँ पे हम लोग de-escalation कर रहे हैं, because today we see that in this respective area Chinese troops have directly moved back. Okay, यहाँ पे थोड़ा पीछे चला गया है वो लोग, because today this rounds of talks is successfully done and it is directly on the meeting of the Indian part side as well as the Chinese part side, that is respectively their core commanders. Okay, so यहाँ पे core commanders का level का meeting हुआ है, and the troops in the area of the Gogra hot springs have been begun to disengage in a coordinated and in a very planned way. Okay, which is very much conducive to the peace and tranquility in the border areas. Okay, so जब ये consensus reach out हुआ है, so both sides have directly worked out the modalities which are now being implemented by our defense officials. That is the Ministry of Defense, who is very much engaged in protecting the countries from any number of external threats. ठीक है, तो as per the understanding, we have seen that also a buffer zone is to be created at the friction points once troops are withdrawn by both the sides, and new patrolling norms are to be worked out after the complete disengagement and de-escalation directly occurs. तो ये कहाँ पे हुआ है? This is directly in this area of the hot springs, Depsang plains के पास. तो in this area of Akchai chain, we could see such number of de-escalation directly taking place. That is directly going with the disengaging of this India and Chinese army. ठीक है, तो ये एक छोटा सा न्यूज था. ओके, नेक्स्ट आता है माइक्रो फॉरेस्ट के हिसाब से. तो व्हाट इज दिस माइक्रो फॉरेस्ट? So today, if I directly analyze about the microforest, I can directly say that, see, today the Miyawaki is a technology pioneered by Japanese botanist Akira Miyawaki that helps build dense native forest in a very short time. Okay, so today, if I directly see about such number of additions through which we could directly analyze the forest, which could directly increase their respective cover in a very short period of time. So this could be very much useful for the people who could directly make a forest within a short period of time. So today, this Miyawaki method, okay, which is directly pioneered by this by this Japanese. So even this Miyawaki method of afforestation to grow some of the urban forest and expand the green cover, as well as to meet the stipulated plantation target, is also being taken up by various number of states in our country. And I can directly take the name of the state known as Telangana. So this Miyawaki is a technique, okay, that helps build dense native forest in a short time, jo maine bola. And it has revolutionized the concept of urban afforestation, okay, by turning their backyards into mini forest. Because this methods includes what? Planting trees, only the native species I'm telling about, as close as possible in the same area, which not only saves space, but the planted sapling also support each other in growth and block sunlight, reaching the ground, thereby preventing the growth of wheat. Wheat क्या होता है? जो बढ़ता हुआ हम लोग का जो destroy करते हैं. Okay, soil, it directly reduces the fertility of soil, reduces the growth of any other crops in the soil. So this approach is supposed to ensure the plant growth is 10 times faster and resulting plantation is 30 times denser as usual. So therefore, Miyawaki method helps to create a forest in just around 20 to 30 years. While through conventional methods, to build a forest, it takes about 200 to 300 years. So यहाँ पे the native trees of the region are identified and divided into some of the 4 layers. जो native है, ठीक है, तो native में shrub आता है, shrub tree आता है, tree आता है, canopy आता है. तो इसको 4 layers में हम लोग divide करते हैं. And after that, the quality of the soil is analyzed, and biomass which would help enhance the performance capacity, water retention capacity, and nutrients in it mixed with it. So a mold is built with the soil, and the seeds are planted at a very high density. And asparta ground is covered with a thick layer of mulchings. Okay, so therefore we could see that this process is very much essential for a direct area which is directly going with deforestation. Generally the urban areas जो deforestation में ज्यादा जाते हैं, तो वो लोग directly हम लोग convert किस में कर सकते हैं, in this number of micro forest at our respective backyard, क्योंकि ये 20-30 साल में एक forest create कर देंगे जो कि हम लोग को 200-300 साल में चाहिए था. So this Japanese concept is very much useful for a country like us where we are directly focusing much more towards urbanization. Okay, तो ये है micro forest. Next पे आते हैं Pakistan flood and Indian response. Okay, so अभी floods in Pakistan, we know about the situation of Pakistan. Okay, तो उन लोगों का situation बहुत बदतर है, ठीक है. So today we could see that even the recent developments which we can see with respect to Pakistan. Though India is directly engaged in many number of talks with Pakistan, but because of the issues that they have, because they do not have a democratic elected government, तो वहाँ पे democratically elected government नहीं होता है. वहाँ पे जो भी government होता है, it directly comes in the surveillance or in the very like control of the respective army. Okay, so in every cases today we see that Pakistan and India, just after the surgical strikes or the air strikes that India has done, okay, उसके बाद से हम लोग के बीच में जो relations है वो भी डायरेक्टली खत्म हो गया है, ठीक है. बट इन दिस रेस्पेक्टिव केस ऑफ गोइंग विद सच नंबर ऑफ फ्लड एक्टिविटीज, टुडे वी कुड सी दैट इंडिया हैज गॉट सम ऑफ द पॉसिबल ऑप्शंस. सी, इंडिया कुड डायरेक्टली रेंडर सम ऑफ द हेल्प at the micro level by sending some of the emergency essential supplies. But if I say at macro and medium level to long term level, it could help in construction of damaged properties and also some of the cultural heritage. क्योंकि मैंने बोला था recently in the last analysis about the Harappan जो civilization है, Indus Valley civilization का जो Harappan उन लोग का जो main है, that is known as the Mount of the Dead, Mohenjo-daro. So we could see that such area is directly getting under water. Okay, so अगर हम लोग को historical element, cultural heritage element भी हम लोग को अगर save करता है, तो India has to directly think for a long-term investment. So therefore, it could help in construction of these damaged properties as well as even this cultural heritage. But however, the current regime's policy of zero tolerance for terrorism and extending help to tackle disaster are at conflict with each other. Because आज अगर हम लोग पाकिस्तान के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, तो पाकिस्तान is never directly letting terrorism out of their respective country. तो आज भी पाकिस्तान में terrorism है, which is directly impacting the internal as well as the external security of the country. Okay, but today we see that PM's modest outreach by way of the message creates a potential opening for disaster diplomacy. So the Pakistan ruling class is well disposed to humanitarian gestures from India. And the state of the Pakistan finance minister said that the government can consider importing vegetables and edible oils from India. Even General Bazar spoke in favor of improving ties. And India has a desire to be the first responder in times of disaster and crisis in neighboring countries. नेपाल में हम लोग ने क्या कर दिया था, 1 घंटे में नेपाल अर्थक्वेक के बीच में हम लोग ने वहां पे अपना ग्लोब मास्टर उतार दिया था. So we could see that the disaster diplomacy can be a good hold between India and Pakistan relations, because we have already gone for vaccine diplomacy, okay, which is directly a major achievement for India. तो ऑलरेडी हम लोग ने वैक्सीन डिप्लोमेसी में चला गया था, वहां पे हम लोग का बहुत सारा वैक्सीन अवेलेबल कर दिया गया था इंडिया के द्वारा. So now I can directly go for disaster diplomacy, which could improve the relations between India and Pakistan, so that this route could be opened again for any form of bilateral trade as well as business. Okay, and this will also help India to directly connect through this particular land to some of the other areas such as Afghanistan, okay, which is also a friendlier nation with a country like India. Okay, obviously there are people, I'm not telling about the Talibani government. Okay, so यहाँ पे हम लोग का एक मौका मिलता है about the Pakistan floods and the diplomacy which is known as disaster diplomacy. तो अभी देखते हैं आगे काल में इंडिया क्या करता है, ठीक है. देखते हैं नेक्स्ट वाला, चाइना सेमी सैटेलाइट ड्रोन. तो इसमें क्या है? So we can see that China's first fully solar powered unmanned aerial vehicle, which is known as Kim Sing 50 or Morning Star 50, has successfully completed its maiden test flight with all onboard system functions optimally. Okay, तो इनका क्या नाम है? इसका जो ड्रोन है, we can see its name to be something like Kim Sing 50, और इसको बोला गया है मॉर्निंग स्टार, ये दो नाम। It has completely made test. तो यहाँ पे मैकेनिक्स क्या है? तो if I say about with a wingspan of around 164 feet, the drone is a large machine powered entirely by solar panels. ये देख सकते हो। And the high altitude, long endurance UAV, that is unmanned aerial vehicle, can stay airborne for long durations. And it could fly above 20 kilometers altitude where there is stable airflow with no clouds. Okay, so it is directly thinking of going above the stratosphere. Okay, so this will help these drones to make the maximum use of solar equipment to stay functional for extended durations. And in fact, the drone can operate without a break for months, and even in the next period, it would go till years. Okay, so therefore, we have seen that China is directly building out of this respective drone. We can directly say this is very much cost effective to build. It is also easy to launch and operate. It is being entirely powered by clean energy that is from the sun. If satellite services are not available for, say, some time-sensitive operations or in case wartime disruption, the near-space UAVs can step in to fill the operational gap. Also, the UAV is capable of conducting high-altitude reconnaissance, apart from monitoring forest fires, providing communications and environment relays. So therefore, we could see that such number of drones would be very much essential for a country like China, who have got their war or who have got their respective enmity with countries like India as well as countries of their respective east. क्योंकि आज इंडिया भी अगर मान लो तो इंडिया इज ऑल्सो फेसिंग अ टू फ्रंट वार डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम पाकिस्तान और चाइना. इवन चाइना इज डायरेक्टली फेसिंग अ टू फ्रंट वार. इफ सपोजली चाइना अगर वेस्ट, अपना जो वेस्ट है, नॉट वेस्ट सॉरी, द साउथ, अगर साउथ में ज्यादा फोकस करे तो यहाँ पे इंडिया बैठा हुआ है, और अगर ईस्ट में फोकस करे तो वी हैव गॉट अ प्रॉब्लम अलोंगसाइड द ताइवान, where all other allied powers, be it USA, UK, Britain, or respectively Australia, Japan, all are sitting in the eastern corridor. तो आज ताइवान में we have got a very good confusion. तो यहाँ पे we can even see Taiwan tomorrow will also face a two-phase front war. Therefore, they need some of the highly tech equipped weapons or as well as machineries so that they could tackle such number of threats directly coming out externally. तो यहाँ पे हम लोग को इंडिया का भी सोचना पड़ेगा, ठीक है, कि व्हाट मोर कैन वी डू इन द रेस्पेक्टिव थिंग व्हिच इज नोन एज ड्रोन्स, क्योंकि आज चाइना के पास हम लोग से काफी गुना ज्यादा ड्रोन्स है. सो दिस इज द थिंग एसोसिएटेड. ओके, नेक्स्ट पे आते हैं. द आउटलाइन ऑफ एसेंशियल ग्लोबल पेंडेमिक ट्रीटी. तो इसमें क्या बोला गया है? इट डायरेक्टली सेज, और दिस पोस्ट इज बेस्ड ऑन द आर्टिकल which says about the bilateral agreements involving India. And also, the COVID-19 was one of the most severe pandemics of the world, which the whole world has seen in the last 100 years. And the impact of the pandemic can be seen even now. And an effective global treaty is required to face future challenges. Okay, because today, if you see about the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, यहाँ पे impact किसका हुआ था? Even we could see about the healthcare system. Low-income countries is all got disrupted. Okay, pharma companies, okay, which have caused enormous increase in the wealth of pharma companies because they had monopoly over the COVID vaccines, be it the Pfizer, be it the BioNTech, be it the Moderna. Okay, so we can see that this creation of this global pandemic treaty has been proposed at the World Health Assembly, WHASS, to mitigate future challenges of such number of pandemic. And the declaration of the monkeypox as public health emergency of international concern has highlighted the need of such number of treaty. Because the global treaty should include the following features. First, a treaty should cover important aspects. Second, it should formally commit governments to implement. Third, it should ask nations to agree on a set of common measures. And fourth, a global pandemic treaty should not only reduce the socio-economic inequalities, but also enhance global pandemic preparedness for future health emergencies. So over here, India needs to play an important role worldwide in taking the pandemic. That is, India never restricted the shipment of vaccines, even when it experienced shortage at the domestic level. Also, India also act as a global leader in dealing with vaccine patent issues with major pharma companies across the world. So India today currently produces 60% of the world vaccines, because India is directly known as the pharmacy of the whole world. And it is said to account for around 60 to 80% of the United Nations annual vaccine procurements. तो यहाँ पे इंडिया का रोल है, यहाँ पे वर्ल्ड का रोल है. Every country needs to come up, every country needs to follow such number of policies, such number of categories which can directly tackle such number of pandemics in the near future. तो इसके लिए हम लोग को एक ग्लोबल पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी का आवश्यकता था, इसीलिए WHASS में, असेंबली में, वर्ल्ड हेल्थ असेंबली में हम लोग का इसका डिस्कशन किया. And India is also taking part in a very good forums, because India is directly today accounting for around 60% of the vaccines that is directly revolving around the whole world. Okay, तो ये last हम लोग का एक analysis था about the pandemic treaty. Okay, चलो, lastly you have got all these respective 5 questions, from which answers you will directly get in our Telegram channel. So you can join our Telegram channel to the link given below. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you and Jai Hind.